Hello and welcome back to StudentBoo.com.
In this lecture, we can actually learn about the instance method. So what is instance method, right? So in our previous lecture, we learned about the static method, right? So what is static method? We learned about that. So in this method, we're going to learn about instance method. Instance method are basically methods that are called after instantiation of class or object creation. So that seems a little confusing, right? What is instantiation of class or object creation then? Well, let's say that, for instance, you have a class called student, right? And a student has all the methods that gives you name of the student, grades, and what courses he has taken, and so on, right? What is his address, and so on. So now you can create n number of objects from that student class. So when you create n number of objects, so you can have a student class and you can create millions of students, right? So a university could have thousands of thousands of students, right? Even millions of students. They can create millions of students from that student class, right? So now, if your class have instance method, your object can call that instance method. Your millions of objects can call that instance method. That's the power of instance method. It's also one of the most commonly used method type. So if you're going to use Java as your programming language, you're going to be using instance method all the time. Not only Java, if you're going to actually use object-oriented programming language such as Ruby, Java, C#, C++, you're going to be using a lot of instance method. So let's take an example here. I've got this class here, student, and I've got this instance method, name of student and grade. So how do I know this is an instance method? Because it does not have a keyword called static, right? This doesn't have a static keyword here and here. That's why I know it's an instance method. So this name of student takes a string parameter name, and it's actually print out my name is, okay? And this one actually grade here, method here, grade. And this actually print out your grade is. And I have this instance method, public static void main. So I've got this static method because I was actually wanted to do some operations in here, okay? And I want to actually run this program. That's why I've got this static main method. Without the static main method, you won't be able to run this program. That's why I've got this static main method here. And now, as you can see here, I'm actually creating an object from the student class. How do I do that? So first, you put your class name student. Then you can whatever name your object. So right now I name it student1, and now equal new student, right? So this is the keyword here. New means you're actually creating instance, so that you're going to be a new object. So you're going to say new, your class name student, and this parenthesis in here. Okay, so now you created this student1 object from the student class, and now I can call this instance method, student1.name of student, student1.grade. So here I got 4.25, and I got student2, and I'm actually doing the same thing. It's just like student1, I just named it student2, and I'm calling the same method, name of student and grade. Now I can change the grade in here and the name as well. Same thing with student3. I can create new student, 3 object, name of student and grade. When I run this, you're going to get my name is Stacy. Grade is 4.25, John 3.25, Jilly 2.25. So I really created 3 objects here. But you can create millions of objects from this student class. And since it has an instance method, I can call it an instance method, right? And you can see here, I've changed the value from this instance method. So with that, you can have millions of objects, and each object would have their own name and own grade, right? Since you have created this student1, the student1 is. So when you create an object, right, and what happens in computer is actually saves in your memory. It actually allocates a memory for this object student1. So every time you call student1, it goes into the memory and fetches the name of the student and grade, right? Same thing with student2, right? If we create an object student2, that actually computer knows, okay, your student2, it goes into your memory, right, where you allocated, and it actually grabs the name of student. So you can have millions of objects, and millions of objects have millions of name and millions of grade, right? Different grade for each student. So the computer would know that, okay, this object has this name and has this grade. That's the power of the computer programming language, actually, and object-oriented programming language. Now when we learn about what instance method is, let's try to do some write some code and create some instance method. Then so I'm actually going to go to IntelliJ, and here I'm actually going to do new, and I'm going to say instance method. So here, before that, I'm actually going to create another class which would have only instance methods. So I'm actually going to take class student. All right, and here I'm just going to create an instance method here, public void name of student. So here I'm actually going to just one parameter, string parameter called name, and it's actually going to print out whatever the name is, student name is, so just put a string interpolation here, and I'm just going to put name. And in here, since I'm doing string interpolation, I'm actually going to do string.format. So same thing in here, I'm just going to copy this and put it here. So this will give you name of student, right? And IntelliJ is pretty smart. If you copy it, and if your method has the same name, it actually throws an error saying you have another method, duplicate method. So this is actually grade of the student. So it's going to do grade in here, and grade is always in double. So I'm going to do double. It's going to say grade, and student grade is right. So now you could see here this grade is a double, right? So if it was an integer, I could just do D, right? But since it's a grade, I actually need to, and it has a decimal place, I actually need to do F. So now with F, what happens is actually print out all the zeros. We'll actually print out like decimal places all the way to like 4 or 5 decimal places. Well, if you want only 2 decimal places, right? Grade only has 2 decimal places. So the way you actually do is you do dot, okay, which means after decimal, and you only want 2 digits after decimal places. So now I'm actually going to create an object here, student1, and new student here, student1, and actually name of student, okay, Stacy, and here student1 dot grade. All right, let's see why it's not working. Okay, let's see here. Oh, I forgot to actually create a static main method here. String args. Okay, then here I'm actually gonna put this in here. So here I'm actually gonna do 4.25, and this you're actually create and student one object. So I have I run this, so you're gonna get student name is, oops, I got a typo in here. So student name is Stacy, and student grade is 4.25, right? So I created a student1 object from this student class. Okay, so I can create another object in here, and actually I'm going to call it student2, and here student2, 2, anything here, student3, 3. So let's just change this to name here, Kevin, and okay, so your grade cannot be 4.25, so actually it's going to be 3.25. So here I'm actually going to do 3.75, and let's say this is 4.0. Okay, so now let's make it actually 3.10, something like that. So now here, as you can see, I got student 1, Stacy, and this grade is 3.25, and I got another student 2 named Kevin, 3.75, and here this name is, let's say, Raj, he's got 3.10. So now if I run this, it's going to say student name is Stacy, okay, and grade is 3.25, student name is Kevin, grade is 3.75, student name is Raj, and the grade is 3.10. So you can see here, I created 3 objects from this same class. Okay, that's the power of the object-oriented programming language. So you can create n number of objects from this class. So let's say in our real time, right, you'd have a student class, right? If your university uses has the application, right, web application or any applications, and they have a student class and they have like instance method, right, and they can create. So if you enroll into that university, they would actually create an object from that class and save your information, your name, your grade, what courses you've taken, and so on, right? So this is kind of like a real-time example here, right? So now you can see here, I only created 3 objects, but you can create millions of objects from the student class. So before that, I also wanted to actually show you what happens if you have a static method here. So static method. So I'm just going to say public. I want to say actually trying to show you what static method does. So I'm actually going to say static void class name here. Okay, just trying to give an example. Let's say it doesn't have a parameter. It's just going to say system.out.println. So class name is So here I'm just going to do string interpolation again. Let's say student. And also I forgot to do string.format. Alright, so now let's see what happens if I actually try to call that class name from this object. If I do student.1.className, student2.className, student3.className. Now if I run this, okay, so here as you can see it says class name student, class name student. So it's able to call a static method right from this class here. So now let's put a parameter in here, string name. So here I'm actually going to say object name now. Object name is, so whatever the name here. Okay, so now let's actually call this one student1, 2, 3. So now you can see here, right? I was actually able to do the same thing here. Static class as well. I was able to call the class name here to give you student2 and student3. So now you're going to say, okay, what's the difference between just void and static method then? So well, let's see what happens if I just comment this code. So the way you comment is you just copy this whole line and you just comment like that, and you just comment like that, and you just copy this and comment like that. And now with the static method, right, all I can do is I can just do student and that class name. Right? Student and this class name. And here, student, that class name. So now if I run this, right, I get student1, student2, and student3. You see here, right? I've got student1, student2, and student3. So now, when you run like this, right, so what happens in your computer memory is with the static method, so first your computer is going to save student1, second your student2, now it's student3. Now when you call that class name again, it's actually going to give you student3. This is static method, the value actually changes. Right? So what happens in the computer memory is when you create a static method, right, and we give some value, right, student1, so now your computer has the class name value as student1. So now when you actually do student2, it actually replaces that student1 with student2. And now again with student3, it replaces student3. Now the good benefit of using static is you do not have to create an object. So here, I do not have to create any objects. Right? For instance method, in order to use instance method, you actually have to create an object like this. So you have to actually create an object for this instance method, but for the static method you do not have to. You can just call the method using this class.className. But the disadvantage of using static method is your class name would be overridden, right? So let's say somebody put it as student1, right, as your class name. So somebody wrote student2. Now you're expecting student1, but somebody replaced it to student2. Now you might be expecting student1, but somebody already replaced that value to student2, right? And your computer might crash because you're actually expecting student1, but some programmer actually changed it to student2, right? So your actually program might fail. So unless you really know that your static method is not going to change a lot, and it does not have a parameter, I would not recommend you to create a static method. So anyway, that's it for this lecture. We learned about what instance method is, and we also learned about the static method, okay? So, and we also learned about the advantage of using instance method. All right, so that's it for this lecture. I'll see you guys in our next lecture.